Chapter 36, Rapid Spread. Yes, it feels very different, but I can't say exactly how it's different. The wild mage nodded slightly. Viscount Roster smiled and said, My Roster territory has undergone extensive reforms. There are many workshops belonging to the Roster family within the territory. Even during the frigid moon, freemen can go to workshops to produce handicrafts and earn a considerable income. At least, no one freezes to death. No one freezes to death. The wild mage's eyes were full of surprise. Most magicians would never have any contact with ordinary people, but the wild mage was different. All these years wandering outside, he'd seen all kinds of people. He knew well that every year during the frigid moon, many people died frozen, starved, or killed by others desperate from hunger. Even in the capital, this was very common. But this Roster territory could actually prevent people from freezing to death. What puzzled him even more was that this Viscount Roster seemed proud of it. Other nobles wouldn't care about these freemen's lives or deaths. They weren't considered the nobles' assets. The wild mage looked at his investor with new eyes for the first time. For the first time, he realized that this Viscount Roster, like himself, was a pioneer not understood by the world. Mr. Wild Mage, I see you're also a heavy internet user. You should know about magic bombs, right? Honestly, the Magic Bomb Workshop is currently our Roster territory's biggest investment. Your self-charging magic array will become our greatest asset, which is also the main reason I wanted to invite you to Roster territory. Viscount Roster looked at the wild mage before him. I want your definite answer. Are you really willing to join our Viscounty? Also, I'd like to know your real name. This is just the beginning. In the future, you'll continue following the God of Technology's path, manufacturing, developing, and selling more magic conductors, right? The wild mage didn't give a direct answer, instead asking his own question. Of course. Viscount Roster didn't hesitate. Good, I'll join. The wild mage nodded directly, but I hope to join the R&D team. I'm very interested in Magi. Magic Conductor Technology. As for my name, honestly, after all these years wandering outside, I can't even remember it. Just call me Wild Mage. The carriage moved swiftly. Arriving at the castle, after receiving the Wild Mage with proper noble etiquette and enjoying a hearty meal, the two came to the Magic Bomb Workshop together. Why are they all mage apprentices? The wild mage couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. Mage apprentices can't produce magic bombs, can they? Usually not. Viscount Roster's lips curved slightly upward. That's true elsewhere, but we're different here. Under the wild mage's puzzled gaze, Viscount Roster revealed his biggest secret. We're just a Viscounty after all. Hiring lots of official mages isn't easy, but I discovered we don't actually need to hire official mages. Magic bombs, or rather magic conductors, differ most from other magical items in being simple. Really very simple, without any complex runes. This has something in common with your self-charging array, and I think that's one reason God appreciates you. But even if it's simple, mage apprentices couldn't possibly do it, right? I haven't seen magic bombs, but I know they can cast relatively strong low-level magic. The wild mage wasn't flattered by the praise, but hearing that he was appreciated by the God of Technology and had similarities with magic bombs, he couldn't help but smile. This was the closest he felt he'd ever been to truth. They don't need to master everything. Each mage apprentice only needs to master one rune from the magic bomb. Master it thoroughly. All the runes on a magic bomb can be completed by just dozens of mage apprentices, because each person only handles one rune. They're extremely familiar with it, even making them more refined and standardized than some low-level mages. Viscount Roster looked ahead confidently. You can go over there to see a finished product, then make one yourself for comparison. Bold thinking. The wild mage didn't move, just his eyes started getting intense. I'm liking this place more and more. He really hadn't thought it could be done this way, each apprentice mastering one rune, then a bunch of apprentices putting together a magic bomb. Genius idea. The wild mage found he was increasingly fond of this young viscount. Over the following period, the wild mage began building large-scale self-charging development in roster territory. Partly because time was urgent with his life nearing its end, and partly to quickly give back to Viscount Roster and show him just how fast this assembly line production mode could be with self-charging development, the wild mage worked almost non-stop. In the goddess of magic's divine realm. Ren watched all this and nodded with satisfaction. This young Viscount seems to have grasped the true essence of magic conductors. Betty beside him looked at everything with some surprise. Even she had only realized this after Raygun 2.0 was created. Yet, he actually figured out assembly lines on his own. Ren was very satisfied. Compared to traditional magical tools, magic conductors' biggest features are universality and affordability, with effects like instant casting being secondary. His thinking of assembly lines proves he's grasped this point. I even suspect you've been secretly tutoring him behind my back. Betty stared at Ren, still somewhat incredulous, otherwise how could he figure everything out so quickly? Didn't that wild mage also invent the self-charging array you thought was impossible? Ren chuckled, then turned his gaze to the brand new Mortal Realm map nearby. How is it? With this, isn't it much more intuitive? This map was something he'd had Betty and the book create together. At first she didn't understand, but when the book fully connected the magic net signal to this map, she instantly felt this thing was really good. Every location where a magic net ring activated would show up on this map as red dots. The Kingdom of Dawn's capital, Greyford Empire's capital, border fortresses of both countries, the red dots were so dense they were almost overflowing. As for major cities, while not matching these two capitals, they still had very substantial numbers. And through these red dots, they could clearly see dense clusters spreading outward from these cities as centers. Some small territories, towns, wilderness forests, mountains, and hills were also gradually showing scattered red dots, reproducing at extremely fast rates. Look at you being all smug. Even without this map, I could just ask the book and know the general situation. Betty said this, but her expression looking at the map had already betrayed her. Looks like Magic Net Ring promotion is going very smoothly. Now there are already over 100,000 people activated, covering almost all areas of both major nations. She couldn't help but admire. Ren was truly amazing. Without Ren, how could they have been so successful? How could they have collected so much faith? Now the Divine Realm's faith requirements were about 70% satisfied. They just needed to earn a bit more, and the Divine Realm barrier wouldn't need the Goddess of Magic's divine power support anymore, letting her return from beyond the domain. It seemed his faith power had accumulated about that much too. With this thought, Betty glanced at Ren again. Almost ready to become a god. Yet, promotion in both major nations has been very smooth, but the Elf Kingdom is much slower than expected. Even the Highland Kingdom, which is influenced by the Elf Kingdom, seems much slower too. Ren turned his gaze to the southern part of the map and couldn't help sighing. Chapter 37, Forum Categories. Ren's voice snapped Betty out of her daydreaming, and she immediately said with some annoyance, they all use life magic but treat magic like witchcraft, insisting their life magic is druid professional skills. The Highland Kingdom is the same even though they're protected by the Elf Kingdom, they're a genuine human kingdom. Why are they like this too? Maybe because of the Druid sect? They seem to worship the god of nature, right? Ren said somewhat uncertainly, I was originally worried they'd be too conservative and wouldn't want to change by using the magic net. Turns out the problem is even trickier than I thought. Getting believers of other sects to pray to the goddess of magic and himself wasn't going to be easy. Betty snorted lightly, the Church of Light are still believers of the god of light, and the Church has the strictest rules among all gods, but didn't they still choose to use the magic net? Hey? The Church of Light is using the magic net. Ren was obviously stunned, then showed a look of sudden understanding. Those really weak faith powers came from them, right? I was wondering why I'd been receiving some pretty thin faith power lately. Yeah, The more powerful the light believers, the less faith power they provide when praying, but they're still praying after all, and faith power is definitely being generated, so as long as it generates faith, let them use it. Ren waved his hand. The Church of Light's headquarters is right in the Kingdom of Dawn's capital. Using the Church's hands to spread the magic net to all light churches throughout the world, isn't that a good thing? He seemed to suddenly understand how those red dots had been popping up in various small places. This was pretty good too. Thin faith was still faith, right? Even a trickle feeds the well. Besides, while each person's faith might be thin, the whole church added up was still quite substantial. Also, how many powerful clerics could there be? Most clerics were still low level, so the weakening wasn't that obvious, right? Plus, the Church of Light wasn't just in the Kingdom of Dawn. Almost all human nations worldwide had light faith. Using their hands to cover most of the world with the magic net was also a good thing, wasn't it? After a brief silence, Ren finally spoke. Since clerics from the Church of Light and Church of the God of War all use the magic net, the Elf Kingdom should be a matter of time too. Once they realize the magic net's usefulness, it should be about right. Hope so. Betty opened her mouth but didn't say what she was thinking. Actually, the biggest reason for being blocked in the Elf Kingdom was that the Elf Queen was theoretically the leader high priestess of the Druid nature sect. They were a nation where politics and religion were unified. Without the Elf Queen's support, the magic net would never see the light of day in the Elf Kingdom. After a brief silence, Betty seemed to think of something and suddenly spoke. Ren, I think the magic net itself, or rather magic space, should get some updates. As we get more and more casual believers, the information in magic space is getting kind of noisy. Noisy? Oh, yeah. Right now their posts are sorted by popularity, but with so many people posting now, lots of posts might get buried. Ren paused slightly, but quickly reacted, got it. We can split this whole magic space forum into multiple forums. That way, everyone can quickly find topics they're interested in. Split it up. Like, click on magic and you get all magic related posts, click on arrays and you get all array posts, runes, magical items, magical creatures, etc. Everything can be split up. Originally Ren was thinking of handling it like regular forum categories, but in the process of explaining, he suddenly thought of online forums. We could even let users create these subcategories themselves: ruins, food, etiquette, bounties, etc. There are so many possibilities. What we can think of is too limited, but what they want to talk about is unlimited. Letting users create their own forums for things they were interested in and then chat freely inside was obviously a better and more complete choice. Actually, online forums were originally an excellent product too, just got ruined later. Besides the overall restructuring, Ren also suggested adding some small features to enrich the fun of the entire magic space. This method is absolutely fantastic. Ever since we got more believers, some people started complaining about this issue. I've been worrying about whether there's a way to solve it, but couldn't think of any good solutions. Now hearing your advice is like having the scales fall from my eyes. You truly deserve to be the inventor of the magic net. Lord Ren. My admiration for you. Wait, why do you look disappointed? Logically, after reforms like this, all problems should be solved. After hearing Ren's reform suggestions, Book literally glowed with excitement, praise flowing endlessly. But even so, after the excitement, he noticed Ren's expression and couldn't help feeling puzzled. No, nothing, it's fine. Ren waved his hand, hurry up and make the changes. When you're done, update it together with the Magic Encyclopedia's level. That should basically perfect all existing functions. Are you thinking about some weird function again? After Book left, Betty thought about it and still asked, or do you have some new idea? No. Ren shook his head slightly. Actually, I was just thinking, if our magic net could transmit pictures, even videos, how great that would be. Too bad the natural magic power scattered throughout the mortal realm isn't nearly enough to support picture transmission. The magic power scattered everywhere was like a 2G network, fine for transmitting text, but transmitting pictures was pretty much impossible. Even if they forced development, it would probably freeze up during transmission. Pictures, videos, images. Pictures are scenes that appear instantly, videos are continuous sequences, like how we watch everything in the mortal realm. Ren quickly explained these two terms that were very foreign to Betty. Actually, I do have an idea. After thinking briefly, Betty smiled. Remember the self-charging arrays? Of course, what's the connection? Ren was obviously stunned, but quickly reacted. You mean magic net information could be transmitted through the stronger magic power of self-charging arrays? More precisely, through the self-charging arrays we've enhanced. But we'd need some magical item assistance first, magic cores for signal transmission from self-charging arrays, then borrowing self-charging arrays for each person using the magic net. Betty analyzed carefully, but there's still a problem here. Even if we upgrade them, the range self-charging arrays can cover is still limited. No, this is already great. Plus, isn't this just the basic version? You need to take the first step before you can take the second. When you have time, study it carefully. Ren was getting excited. If this could succeed, wouldn't that be like having broadband, wired network? This was definitely major progress. Though it seemed like implementing it would require popularizing self-charging arrays first. Maybe it was time to give self-charging arrays a new name, like Magic Power Network. Similar to a fusion of power grids and broadband from his previous life. At this moment, in the Kingdom of Dawn's capital, in the Nobles District, a special small-scale banquet was quietly unfolding. Chapter 38, Truly Our Salvation. In the Golden Hall, magic crystal lamps shone brightly, showing no sign that night had fallen. Light melodies echoed through the hall, the air filled with intoxicating and luxurious atmosphere. Nobles gathered in small groups holding wine glasses, chatting and guessing today's banquet theme, though there might not be any theme at all. The Kingdom of Dawn's nobles were always hosting banquet after banquet with nothing better to do, and even this frigid moon couldn't stop their enthusiasm for parties. The banquet wasn't very large as it was about to officially begin, only about a dozen nobles had arrived, all middle and minor nobles. Seems like the banquet host had intentionally excluded major nobles. The music gradually softened and disappeared, and the nobles' gazes almost simultaneously turned toward the hall entrance. Two capable servants in attendant clothing pushed open the heavy, ornate doors, and the mansion's owner, Count Vilan Wells, walked in wearing a black formal suit, with golden short hair and two meticulously groomed mustaches, looking quite refined. But his complexion was pale in a sickly way, with two unnatural red patches, like a carnival clown. This wasn't because he was unwell. Among the Kingdom of Dawn's noble circles, only those with substantial wealth could have this complexion. Because this was the result of nobles without magical talent frequently taking large amounts of magic potions to experience magical power. Those expensive magic potions weren't something ordinary nobles could afford. Seeing this Count's pleasant smile, as if something good had happened, many people's expressions became more cheerful too. But some people's faces changed after noticing the lean middle-aged man beside the Count. That lean middle-aged man's formal wear, etiquette, and bearing were all fine, but he was Viscount Roster. That weirdo. Using a Baron Viscounty, he'd forcibly seized the economic sources of over a dozen nobles, then when those nobles came to him secretly, he used magic bombs to blow them all up. Even now, those dozen-plus nobles were crying behind the scenes. How was he here? Curiosity grew stronger, but the nobles' breeding meant they couldn't speak rashly, only focusing their gazes on Count Vilan Wells. Count Wells, thank you for your wine and food. This is truly a memorable banquet. My friend, you must want to introduce your new friend to everyone, right? Before introducing this friend, I'd rather everyone see this banquet's theme. Count Wells came to the center of the banquet hall and had servants bring up a large box. The moment it opened, everyone fell silent. Oh! My God! Count Wells, how can you put so many magic bombs in the banquet hall? This is way too dangerous for us. Magic bombs were quite famous in noble circles. After the Northern Battle, most of these nobles had purchased some to stockpile in their castles for defense. Precisely because they understood them, they found them more terrifying. Some who knew Roster were already lost in thought. Just then, a noble suddenly spoke, "Count Wells, why do these magic bombs look different from what the coffin-carrying sells? Different from what the kingdom makes too. Don't tell me these were produced by your Wells territory." With these words, all nobles refocused on Count Wells. Vaguely, they seemed to understand this banquet's purpose. "No, these are masterpieces of Viscount Roster's territory." Count Wells still wore a noble's smile, introducing Viscount Roster to everyone. Compared to those magic bombs the kingdom manufactures, Viscount Roster's workshop makes them more refined and at lower cost. A Viscounty making better quality than the kingdom at lower cost, how was that possible? All nobles present showed incredulous expressions. Until the next day, when they all visited Viscount Roster's territory and saw the assembly line production in the magic bomb workshop, saw the arrays auto-charging, every noble's eyes went wide. Magical items could be made like this. Magic bombs could auto-charge. By the God of Wisdom! Viscount Roster, your workshop creations are simply incredible. Have the God of Wisdom and God of Knowledge blessed you to create such an unimaginable production method. Just needing dozens of mage apprentices plus one array to continuously produce magic bombs, with production efficiency much faster than what they'd heard about. In a days, they could already see a money printing machine. Even coin workshops didn't make money this fast. Viscount Roster showed a smile. It's the God of technology. Magic conductors, magic bombs, self-charging arrays, everything here is the God of technology's blessing. I received the God of technology's guidance. Now, the God of technology's radiance will also shine upon each of you. As long as you join my enterprise. Roster was a very clear-headed person. He knew that as just a Viscount, he was destined to be unable to mass-produce, unable to make his name and the God of technology's name in the coming magic bomb craze. After all, if he produced too much, other major nobles might really swallow him up. But small-scale production wouldn't maximize magic bomb's influence. So he thought of a solution: find lots of small and medium nobles to cooperate with, using the funding and influence of dozens of small and medium nobles to rapidly expand scale. This way, he might get even more benefits, even with so many more people sharing the cake. Plus, the God of technology's influence would rapidly spread through these nobles' territories. Maybe a single small or medium noble didn't count for much in this decaying kingdom, but a dozen small and medium nobles together would become a significant force. A force even the royal family would have to take seriously. Viscount Roster didn't stay at the scene very long. Detailed business needed individual meetings. Now they needed to discuss and think. If there were technical questions, Mr. Wild Mage was still on site. "Viscount Roster, looks like your plan is going very smoothly. They'll most likely all join this great enterprise." Count Wells could no longer hide his excitement. Viscount Roster nodded, "Thank you for your assistance, Count. Don't be so polite." Count Wells quickly waved his hands. "I'm also a shareholder here, aren't I? If we want to bite off this piece of cake from the royal family, inviting them to join is essential. They're all nobles like us who have some interest in new things, have the courage to invest, and have scarce land. This will become their family lifeline. They'll guard our industry like they guard their family honor." "I hope so." Roster nodded. "The more people participate, the more funding invested, the larger our scale, the more output, the bigger cake we all get. This will feed them well." Count Wells laughed and stood up, his excitement beyond concealment. "To this beautiful era. The God of technology is truly our salvation. To this beautiful era. Chapter 39, User Level. What Ren found somewhat boring. A 2G network where you could only browse forums and chat seemed like a whole new era to the magicians. Lying in their mage towers, they could learn about things happening thousands of miles away. Working for nobles in kingdom border territories, they could still keep up with various new developments in their associations. They could even discuss spell models with like-minded friends, learn about local customs from people who like to travel, and ask locals about conditions before going on trips. It couldn't get more perfect. So many things they never dared dream of before were just happening now. This totally exceeded everyone's imagination. But today, the magic net had changed again. My God! Magic Space actually categorizes different posts now. Ha ha ha, awesome! I love discussing basic spell models, but it was really hard to find them in that pile of posts before. By the goddess of magic and god of technology, the new version of Magic Space is fantastic. I take back my previous evaluation of you two because of the Magic Encyclopedia. Bringing people interested in the same topics together for easier communication and mutual help. This idea is absolutely brilliant. But bro, why is your username blue with a 3 after it? What does that mean? I've never seen it before. You can even create your own category. I'm planning to create a magical creature taste forum. Wonder if anyone shares my interests. I absolutely love those magical creatures, they taste so good, really. The forumization of Magic Space, where both mainstream and niche topics could create their own forums to precisely gather like-minded users and make connections, caused huge reactions the moment it was released. Even a certain grand magician specifically created his own forum, leaving other magicians stunned. Besides their surprise, these magicians gradually noticed something odd. Many people's usernames had changed colors. Blue, green, yellow, orange, red, each different color followed by a number, seemingly representing levels. After some exploration, they finally discovered that this update wasn't just to Magic Space. The Magic Encyclopedia had also been modified. Post Magic Encyclopedia entry, +1 point per entry. Delete Magic Encyclopedia entry, -1 point per entry. Posted entry viewed, +1 point per view. Posted entry referenced, +10 points per reference. Edit others' entries, approved, +10 points. Incorrect entry coverage modification, -10 points. Level 1, 1 point. Level 2, 5 points. Level 3, 15 points. Level 17, 100,000 points. Level 18, 300,000 points. This information under a Magic Encyclopedia entry showed the complete point gain/loss reward system and level structure. I, the legendary Druid Master Wrathwind, have a grey username just like most people. How infuriating. Deep in the forests near the Elf Kingdom and Greyford Empire border, the legendary Druid Master Wrathwind, retired for 2,000 years, lay in his chair sunbathing and browsing the magic net, his expression suddenly darkening. To level up, you have to share your knowledge on the Magic Encyclopedia. His elf apprentice said somewhat helplessly, "Teacher, our Druid Magi, Druid skills can't be shared on the Magic Encyclopedia, or the Council of Elders will definitely cause you trouble." As if they won't cause me trouble if I don't share. Master Wrathwind waved dismissively, "I'm already hiding in this wilderness. Do I still need to fear them? You've been hiding in this wilderness for 400 years because of gambling debts, not daring to return to the capital. Aren't you still afraid of them?" The apprentice looked strange but didn't dare say it out loud. "All right, I know what's appropriate. I can't share Druid magic, but I've accumulated plenty of other magical knowledge over these thousands of years, especially what I won from humans." Master Wrathwind thought the apprentice was worrying about this and waved his hand. But these words made the apprentice's expression even stranger. He still remembered when his teacher last played cards with a human legendary magician. He needed several days to think about each move, finally exhausting the other player who didn't want to continue and left with his stakes. Though humans and elves perceived time differently, who could handle someone taking several days to think about each move? When Master Wrathwind took action, many high-level magicians also seemed angry about this system. But they couldn't possibly stop using the magic net. So one by one, they started sharing some unimportant knowledge they knew. For a while, Book felt the magic encyclopedia was even more lively than magic space. Lord Ren, the appearance of the level system actually stimulated so many magicians to start freely sharing their knowledge. It's simply incredible. Your idea is absolutely fantastic. I never thought. Because you're not human. Ren smiled and waved. No, I should say, because you're not an ordinary social intelligent being. Whether human or elf, as long as they live in hierarchical societies, comparison will always exist. Supernatural beings are even more so. They can't accept an apprentice having a higher level than them. Seems I still have a lot to learn. Whether the magic encyclopedia or magic space reforms, they're all very successful. They seem to have endless topics to discuss, endless forums to create. Some people browse over a dozen different forums in one go. Book's endless chatter didn't annoy Ren much, maybe because he was in a really good mood right now. Though Magic Space still couldn't post pictures or videos, after becoming forumized, it finally had a taste of his previous life. He could easily find interesting posts, which relaxed his tense nerves somewhat. Though he didn't actually have nerves. Really searching. If the activation frequency stays the same as when developing new features every day, faith could probably rise by several %. Feeling the suddenly surging torrent of faith, Ren comfortably squinted his eyes. The faith liquid in his blank godhead had accumulated over 2/3, not far from being full. Book's voice suddenly got louder, startling him. Hey! There was actually such a huge mithril vein in this world. 8,000 years ago in the northern territory of the Kingdom of Dawn, there was actually a duchy that organized over 10,000 people to mine mithril veins. Until the duchy's destruction, this mithril vein was the duchy's main funding source. What's this? Why does this sound familiar? Did that high schooler who made up Wikipedia entries also transmigrate? Different world, same rumor? Ren had no idea of any mithril veins in the Kingdom of Dawn that would require 10,000 people to mine. If there were, the kingdom would have acted long ago. Why wait until now? Roster territory. After finishing his patrol of the self-charging array, the wild mage quietly came to the array's center, sat down and habitually pulled out his magic net to browse. The moment he opened it, his face showed deep surprise. After quite a bit of exploration, he understood about 70 or 80% of the magic net's changes. Seems like he's made another move. The wild mage couldn't help muttering, maybe I should create a magic conductor for him and see if there are any kindred spirits. Viscount roster seems really short-staffed here. But the name magic conductor hasn't spread yet, and I don't know how many people would understand. Maybe I should just use magic bomb for the name. Right. That's it. Establish a magic bomb forum, then post an announcement declaring that magic bombs are a type of magic conductor. That would be perfect. He had no idea how explosive the name Magic Bomb Forum would be. Chapter 40, Destructive Fist Edia. Someone already created a Magic Bomb Forum so quickly. Wonder how many fellow enthusiasts like this. Magic Bomb's the romance that belongs to mages. Nonsense, this is also Noble's romance. I've already purchased thousands of them. Magic bombs belong to magic conductors. So they were created by the god of technology. Thinking about it carefully, magic bombs really do seem different from traditional magical items, so it's a new path opened by a deity. Shortly after the wild mage established the Magic Bomb Forum, it gathered quite a crowd. No wonder magic bombs had been performing brilliantly lately. From low-level magicians exploring ruins to the northern battle against ice spirit armies, from single magic bombs saving lives to tens of thousands flying together. These events all stimulated every magic space user. Almost everyone would be covered by magic bomb usage scenarios. To put it bluntly, magic bombs basically gave everyone an extra life. But most people hadn't realized their greatest special feature, let alone thought this would be the god of technology's creation. But thinking about it carefully, it seemed reasonable. How could a deity who worked with the goddess of magic to launch the magic internet not have other influences? This setting didn't surprise too many magicians. Instead, quite a few people entering this forum vaguely felt that times might be changing. If magic conductors weren't just magic bombs. Watching more and more people gathering in the forum he created, after discussing with Viscount Roster, the Wild Mage directly posted about self-charging arrays and recruiting magicians, pinning and highlighting it. Of course, the self-charging array information recorded in this post was still very incomplete. Even a legendary magician would find it nearly impossible to replicate from this information, but anyone who understood deep magical principles would definitely realize its special features. Hey? Self-charging. Is the poster crazy? How could such a thing exist? As everyone knows, charging can only be done by magical beings. This is also the most difficult part of magic bomb production. The poster is actually the forum moderator. Don't tell me you created the magic bomb forum just to scam people? Damn, I should have registered it earlier. By the goddess of magic, is there any way to replace this forum moderator? I remember seeing similar information elsewhere before. A legendary magician was certain it couldn't succeed. If it did, he'd be willing to use stinky slime excrement as a face mask. For this era's magicians, self-charging magic arrays were like something that completely overturned their worldview. Just like when the Wild Mage was ostracized in the capital, posting this now immediately drew quite a bit of mockery. Even those without malice would express complete disbelief. Mr. Wild Mage, this only proves their short-sightedness. Viscount Roster looked at the constantly appearing posts and quickly spoke up. I don't mind. The Wild Mage smiled and waved. Actually, I knew from the start it would definitely be like this. Seeing Viscount Roster's somewhat surprised expression, the Wild Mage continued explaining, as long as one person believes, as long as one person is willing to join our cause, isn't that success? Yes. As long as one person is willing, that has value. Viscount Roster muttered somewhat dazedly, I was being narrow-minded. Interacting with comrades like the Wild Mage didn't require the same careful, formal speech as with those nobles, which made Viscount Roster quite comfortable. Look, someone's already privately messaging me. There are always people who can determine from just a few words that our plan is truly feasible. The Wild Mage's face showed a deep smile. He'd always believed this path would never be lonely. All right, I'm putting you in complete charge of this. The only requirement is don't let self-charging arrays spread in the short term. Wait until we're prepared before spreading them. Viscount Roster nodded slightly. Also, I came today to tell you that tomorrow I'll be taking magic bombs to meet the hand of the king. Almost simultaneously. In the capital. Boss, after this mission we should have enough money saved up, right? A group that looked somewhat like mercenaries but were actually supernatural beings forming an adventure party walked on Starlight Street, with one member smiling and asking. Right. Destructive Fist Eddie couldn't help showing anticipation, letting out a demonic laugh. Kakik, after finishing this job, we can afford a ship. About 10 years ago, their adventure party had discovered a treasure map in some ruins, but getting the treasure required sailing to find a distant island. They'd spent almost all their energy on this over the years and were close to success. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go quickly. The team members immediately got excited. What's the rush? The Magic Net Ring's birthplace is right on this street, and they supposedly have lots of magic bombs there. Let's go buy some. Destructive Fist Eddie could become team leader because he wasn't brainless. You guys are veterans in this business, don't you know that accidents always tend to happen at times like this? After finishing this job I'll go home and get married, after finishing this job I'll buy you whatever, after finishing this job this and that. How many seniors said things like this and never came back? What kind of theory was this? All team members looked completely confused. But thinking about it carefully, there really were quite a few acquaintances who'd crashed and burned exactly like this. Hiss really couldn't be too careful. They say throwing one magic bomb was equivalent to a top-level low-grade instant magic spell. Buying 10 or 20 would indeed be a good idea. After all, once this job was done, the rewards would be huge. Boss. Excuse me, where's your boss? Destructive Fist Eddie walked into Hetty's magic shop Magic Net Business Hall, just about to call out when he saw a little girl seriously polishing a coffin, and couldn't help pausing. What family puts a coffin in their shop for no reason? Really too unlucky. Destructive Fist Eddie was about to complain when he remembered that the owner here was called the Coffin-Carrying Hetty, and everyone who came here seemed to know this. I am the owner. What do you need? Do you need a magic net ring? Magic net rings can only be used by magicians, so you might. Hetty carefully examined the man before her, her expression somewhat suspicious. Burly build, brown skin, messy short hair, a bear tattoo on his body, carrying a nearly 2-meter-long giant sword, wearing what looked like mercenary clothing, but she could sense this was magical equipment with probably extremely strong defense, but he didn't look like a magician at all. Chapter 41, Genius Work. Don't let my looks fool you, I'm a genuine mage apprentice. Destructive Fist Eddie widened his eyes, showing off the magic net ring on his finger, then quickly prayed, inputting magic power to activate the magic net ring. See? I can activate the magic net. His Hetty didn't hide her sharp intake of breath. Too bad I didn't get to meet you earlier. If I could have met you back then, that mission would definitely have been completed faster. Mission? What? Destructive Fist Eddie was somewhat confused. No, nothing. Hetty shook her head slightly. Since you already have a magic net ring, what brings you to my shop? Facing this perfect customer she'd once missed, Hetty's emotions were a bit down for a moment, until he stated his purpose. I heard your magic bombs here are the most authentic and strongest. Whether they're the strongest, I don't know, but all the magic bombs here are gifts from God, different from other places. Hetty excitedly pulled out a box. But I'd recommend you buy our new product instead. Trust me, this is the equipment that suits you best. Just 30 gold shields, first come first served. The box opened. A bracer-type ray gun sat inside. The bracer-type ray gun was similar to Spider-Man's web shooters, fixed to the wrist. You just needed to input magic power to fire rays. Compared to the traditional ray gun, it was obviously more suitable for this burly man. Looking at his outfit, he should be an adventurer type. Probably studied magic for a few years early on but switched to knight or swordsman professions due to low magical talent. Such people weren't uncommon. Hetty immediately thought of many scenarios where he could use it. Bracer-type ray gun? What's this? I need life-saving equipment. This is life-saving equipment. Hetty quickly explained all the information about the bracer-type ray gun. You're saying I just need a tiny bit of magic power to trigger this thing and it'll fire ray attacks? And I get to choose what kind of ray? Destructive Fist Eddie was somewhat bewildered. Yes. Searing rays, freezing rays, corrosive rays, almost all the low-level ray magic you can think of. And one energy storage rune module can fire 10 times, change it out in 1 second and you get another 10 shots. Hetty's endless chatter gave Destructive Fist Eddie an idea. Alright, I'll take it. 30 gold shields, right? Yes, bracer-type ray gun for 30 gold shields. After the transaction was complete, just as Destructive Fist Eddie was about to leave, Hetty's voice rang out again, aren't you going to get some ray modules? In some scenarios, a single ray type won't work well. One spell ray module is just 10 gold shields. Destructive Fist Eddie was tempted. After purchasing several modules, Hetty's voice rang out again, don't you want to get some extra energy storage modules? Charging isn't convenient when exploring in the wild, and during fights, one extra ray often means one extra life. Destructive Fist Eddie was tempted. After purchasing several energy storage modules, before Hetty's voice could ring out again, he suddenly stopped and turned around. You sure there's nothing else to recommend? If you'd like, you could buy some magic bombs too. Hetty smiled and started showing off the different types of magic bombs. After who knows how long, when Destructive Fist Eddie left the shop, his expression was somewhat strange. Just as his teammates were about to ask, he said somewhat helplessly, maybe after this job's done, we'll need to do one more. Dawn Royal Palace. Hand of the King Birion was frowning as he looked at the magic net in his hands. Just then, there was a knock at the door. Come in. Birion looked at the person entering, displeasure flickering in his eyes. The Western Border Garrison General had just sent a message through the magic net about some movements from the Dalir Emirates, forcing him to focus almost all his energy on this matter. He didn't want to think about other things. The Dalir Emirates was located northwest of the kingdom. It was a united kingdom jointly established by Western continental humans, orcs, and half-orcs. The kingdom was organized in tribal forms internally but had established a council at the royal court to jointly govern the territory. Any movement from these muscle-brained guys would give the Kingdom of Dawn major headaches. Sir, the new products from Lady Hetty the coffin-carrying's shop are still weapons. The attendant had already sensed Birion's displeasure and quickly set out the ray guns. Looking at the items placed on the table before him, Birion's eyes were full of surprise. You're saying these are new magic conductor creations sold by Lady Hetty's shop? Yes, Lord Birion. These two devices and these accessories are the new merchandise from Lady Hetty the coffin-carrying's shop. A servant bowed and quickly explained, Lady Hetty says these two devices are called ray guns and can release over a dozen different ray magics like searing rays, corrosive rays, bright light rays, etc. The biggest difference from magic bombs is they use something called modular construction. I have some understanding of this term. You can see these accessories. As Birion listened to the servant's endless explanation, his expression grew increasingly serious, even gradually filled with amazement and joy. The term modular was quite obscure, but when combined with the objects before him, it became easy to understand. The ray gun was divided into three parts: main body, energy storage magic module, and spell model module. Combining these three parts allowed usage. Moreover, these three modules could be combined at will. Whatever spell model you used determined what ray you fired. After depleting energy storage, swap in an energy module and you could count again and fire anew. Genius! Genius work! Birion looked at everything and couldn't help muttering, compared to magic bombs, this magic conductor is more suitable for precision work. No, this is like an enhanced magic archer. An archer who can infinitely shoot magic rays. As a border duke who had overseen multiple wars, he quickly realized the ray gun's important role. He immediately couldn't help opening the magic encyclopedia to see if there were related construction methods online, but sadly, not even entries existed. Helplessly, he could only summon the two giants again. If they could produce large quantities of ray guns, he'd have confidence in victory even against the Dalir Emirates. They spent the entire night together studying this new magic conductor, dark circles somehow spreading to their cheeks. Even with legendary strength, quickly reverse engineering ray guns wasn't easy. Just as they were discussing intensely, footsteps suddenly sounded outside. Lord Birion, Viscount Roster has arrived. Do you want to see him now? Viscount Roster. Birion was obviously stunned, but soon recalled recent documents. Tell Viscount Roster I'm tied up with something here. Please ask him to wait in the reception hall for a moment. Understood. The attendant nodded slightly and was about to leave when he seemed to remember something. Sir, should Viscount Roster's samples be moved to a more secure area? We can't be sure if magic bombs produced by Roster territory are safe and reliable. Magic bombs. Everyone present was stunned. The two legendary magicians immediately focused their gazes on the hand of the king. Weren't they supposed to be responsible for magic bomb production through their magical organizations? Why were there outsiders involved? And just a mere viscount? How much did this look down on them? But Birion was also completely baffled. You're saying Viscount Roster brought magic bombs produced by his territory? Chapter 42, What kind of monster? Yes, sir. He brought a box of samples. We checked them, they're different from both Lady Hetty's and the kingdom's production. The attendant bowed and quickly explained the situation clearly. I should go meet this Viscount Roster now. You two can continue researching the ray gun here or go to the dining hall for a meal. After thinking briefly, Birion gave instructions and left the meeting room. Wilton, aren't you curious about that Viscount Roster? Aren't you curious too? But Lord Birion would never let us meet that Viscount. Wilton shook his head, saying with certainty. They were the kingdom's foundation, that was right, but for the kingdom, never putting all eggs in one basket was always the best decision. Having them meet directly wouldn't be a good choice. All these magic bombs were produced by your workshop. Minutes later, Birion stared in amazement at everything before him. How many bombs can your workshop produce daily? He could clearly tell these magic bombs were far superior to the kingdom's production led by the two major associations. More terrifyingly, every magic bomb was extremely standardized, as if all made by a single magician. Every rune stroke was identical, but he knew very well this absolutely couldn't be one person's production. How was this achieved? Viscount Roster's status in his mind instantly rose several levels. He felt this matter was definitely not simple. Currently about 700 daily, but Count Vilanwells and over a dozen other families have decided to invest in it. Conservatively estimated, daily production could increase to 5,000. 700. 5,000. Where did you get so many mages? Even Birion, who temporarily managed the Kingdom of Dawn in place of the king, couldn't help exclaiming after hearing this. According to the Royal Mage Society's reports, magic bomb production required at least low-level mages. To rescue the North, they'd gathered almost all mages in the capital and hired numerous mage apprentices for charging to create the previous miracle. Viscount Roster's territory was near the capital. Where did he get so many mages? Daily production of 700 would require at least 100 official mages plus thousands or tens of thousands of mage apprentices, right? Even legendary magicians couldn't replace that many people. That's our secret, Lord Birion. Even if you're the hand of the king, we can't possibly tell you all our methods. Viscount Roster smiled. My main purpose here is to ask you exactly how many magic bombs does the kingdom need? We need to stockpile at least 1 million magic bombs, maybe more. Just produce at full capacity. The kingdom will buy however many you make. After who knows how long, Birion finally recovered from his amazement, then his face filled with joy. With so many magic bombs, forget the Talir Emirates. Even against Greyford Empire, he'd dare fight. Of course, the price must be reasonable. You're not the only option. Seeming to realize he'd shown too much joy, Birion quickly added. Naturally. Viscount Roster's smile grew more brilliant. We're very confident about both production capacity and price. How could traditional magicians compete with their assembly line operations and self-charging arrays? The costs weren't even in the same league. In fair competition, he feared nothing. After settling matters, just as Roster was about to leave, Birion stopped him. Since your workshop can mass-produce magic bombs on such a scale, what are your thoughts on ray guns? Ray guns? Roster was obviously stunned. This was the first time he'd shown confusion since entering the castle. Seems you haven't had time to visit Lady Hetty's shop yet. The god of technology recently bestowed many more magic conductor creations, the most novel being 2 types of ray guns. The kingdom intends to mass-produce them. Birion didn't need to continue. Roster already understood his meaning. We'll consider this matter, but first I might need to visit Lady Hetty's shop. Though all the kingdom's border forces and even nobles' private armies need large quantities of ray guns, I still must remind you only mastered technology is the source of wealth. Birion looked deeply at Roster. Vaguely, he seemed to have guessed how roster territory actually produced magic bombs, but there was no need to say it out loud. As long as they could produce enough, that was fine. The border situation was tense now, the more magic bombs the better. His final words were just reminding the other party that if ray guns could also be handled, that would be even better. There were rumors that this Viscount Roster was a believer of the god of technology, and the god of technology was the source of everything. Night fell quietly. The bright moon cast a layer of pale silver light. Destructive Fist Eddie and his group had been exploring the mountains near the capital for most of the day. Even now, Destructive Fist Eddie was still conflicted. Had he been scammed? Had he overspent? To actually spend over 300 gold shields in that little shop? He was about to go crazy. Tree shadows constantly cast various menacing patterns on the ground, making the entire mountain range seem somewhat eerie and terrifying. Boss, should we find somewhere to rest for the night and continue tomorrow? It's so dark, it's hard to search. What do you know? These ruins are easier to find at night. Destructive Fist Eddie snorted coldly, his steps not pausing at all. It was this guy's big mouth that made him conflicted for so long. Finally here. Not far from them, two figures wrapped themselves in thick black robes, even covering their faces. Seeing Destructive Fist Eddie's group, their excitement was barely containable. Ghost, you sure the information you got is correct? Nonsense, that Destructive Fist Eddie definitely has giant bloodline and became a mage apprentice. The guy called Ghost snorted, this is already the fifth adventure party we've lured here. Don't fail again and blame us for preparing the wrong bloodline. Time's getting tight, we must quickly form combat power. This time we'll definitely succeed. My baby is almost done evolving. Along with sinister laughter, the entire forest began to seem somewhat strange. Destructive Fist Eddie suddenly stopped. Careful, there's danger. Hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo. Just as his words fell, very heavy breathing immediately reached their ears. Even just the breathing sounded somewhat deafening. Suddenly, a massive and twisted human figure appeared in their field of vision. This was a huge monster standing 10 meters tall, covered in horrific stitched wounds, as if randomly cobbled together. The monster looked very twisted, as if even standing upright was extremely difficult, but with just a casual swing of those massive arms, surrounding trees would crash down. Hiss, what kind of monster is this? How could there be such a monster near the Kingdom of Dawn's capital? Destructive Fist Eddie couldn't help gasping. Chapter 43, Perfect Trap. Before Destructive Fist Eddie and his crew could react, the monster seemed to spot them and suddenly sped up, charging straight at them. At the same time, a thin green mist started spreading around the area. It's poison gas. Everyone take your antidote potions. Destructive Fist Eddie was the first to catch on. This was set up ahead of time. Something's wrong with this mission. As he spoke, the muscles on his body began bulging up, like his whole body had been instantly activated, giving off an incredibly fierce vibe. You guys support me from the sides, I'll take it head on. Just then, the mist enveloped them. Buzz. He felt his head spin, like something was slamming into his brain. Luckily he'd noticed early and already downed an antidote potion, so it wouldn't affect them too badly. But even slight dizziness would mess with the fight ahead. Destructive Fist Eddie stared at the monster getting closer and closer, his face full of wariness. No clue which church had cooked up this thing. No clue what they were really after either. Roar! The monster suddenly burst forward, appearing right in front of Destructive Fist Eddie and throwing a vicious heavy punch. The massive force actually tore through the air around it, at least as strong as a mid-tier knight's strike, coming straight at him. Destructive Fist Eddie didn't even flinch, throwing his own punch right back. The air surged, blowing several nearby team members away and clearing some of the mist, making their vision a lot clearer. But it only lasted a few seconds before Destructive Fist Eddie was forced back over 10 steps. Man, this thing's strong. Destructive Fist Eddie's eyes were full of ferocity. Seeing the monster getting ready to attack again, he quickly moved to meet it. Boom! Destructive Fist Eddie threw a fierce punch at the monster's belly, but it got blocked again, sending shockwaves rolling. Meanwhile, the other supernatural beings around them started unleashing slashes, magic fireballs, or drawing their bows for ranged attacks. Especially that fireball, the moment it hit the monster, it expanded several times over. Even Destructive Fist Eddie could feel the scorching heat. Roar! The monster didn't seem seriously hurt at all. If anything, it got pissed off, and with another terrifying shriek, it attacked again. Whether from all the punches they'd traded or that poison mist from before, blood was starting to trickle from the corner of Destructive Fist Eddie's mouth. Wait! Those guys' attacks are leaving marks on this thing too, we can definitely take it down. Destructive Fist Eddie's mind raced, and suddenly he spotted the bracer on his wrist. That's right. The ray gun. The ray gun he'd just bought today, he hadn't even used it yet. Looking at the monster trading blows with him, Destructive Fist Eddie's mouth twisted into a nasty grin. He channeled magic power into the bracer. Boom! Times have changed, freak! A searing ray shot out from his bracer. In a normal fight, trying to aim at an enemy wouldn't be easy. But right now they were going punch for punch, flesh against flesh. How could he possibly miss? Besides, this thing's fist was way bigger than Destructive Fist Eddie's. A pained shriek rang out as a huge hole appeared in the monster's fist, but not a drop of blood came out. Destructive Fist Eddie looked a bit stunned, but his body kept moving. As a mage apprentice, channeling magic power wasn't easy for him. But just activating the ray gun? That wasn't hard at all. One searing ray after another kept firing. He could even feel his bracer getting hotter and hotter. Searing rays really lived up to their reputation as top-tier low-level magic. Soon they'd blown a hole right through the monster's belly. In an instant, tons of spirits poured out of the monster's stomach. Men, women, old, young, all kinds. But every single one looked burly and powerful. Giant bloodline. The others might not have caught on, but Destructive Fist Eddie had giant bloodline himself. He understood immediately this was a conspiracy aimed right at him. They were probably trying to use his bloodline or body to perfect this monster. Use magic bombs, throw them into this thing's belly. I'll keep it busy. The team members snapped out of their shock. Those with magic power quickly pulled out magic bombs. With all their outdoor adventuring experience, they were plenty strong and didn't need a dedicated thrower to get those magic bombs where they needed to go. Meanwhile, Destructive Fist Eddie quickly switched spell models. As the explosions rang out, he fired off a corrosive ray. Corrosive rays could attack spirits too. With the screams of spirit after spirit, the monster's body finally seemed unable to hold up and collapsed. The team members immediately stopped their bombardment. Even Destructive Fist Eddie, after firing one last ray, swapped out his power module and stopped shooting. That stuff was all money. From here on out, pure physical strength should be enough to finish it off. If push came to shove, they could always keep using these things. Damn! Destructive Fist Eddie, I never thought you'd be this strong. Just as they started cleaning up and getting ready to attack, a black-robed figure's face turned cold. In that case, even better, I'm definitely going to use you to make the perfect corpse puppet. Ha ha ha, so the real boss finally shows up. I'm gonna take you down, cultist, to make up for today's losses. Destructive Fist Eddie's maniacal laughter rang out as he charged at the black-robed figure. Humph! You've already exhausted all your magic power, what can you possibly do to me? The black-robed figure was building up power. Just as his magic was about to unleash, a corrosive ray shot straight at him. Magic power exhausted? Who told you that? If that was all it took, my 300 gold shields would have gone down the drain. Destructive Fist Eddie sneered while firing another corrosive ray in a different direction. Unlimited ammo, perfect aim, this was way too sweet. Just burned through cash like crazy though. The fight was both much harder and much easier than they'd expected. Looking at the two black-robed figures lying on the ground, already corroded beyond recognition, plus the monster, destructive fist, Eddie muttered under his breath, "We took down cultists and this monster near the capital of the Kingdom of Dawn. Wonder if there'll be any reward? If not, we're gonna lose big on this trip." Chapter 44, Temptation Knocks. Oh my god! There was actually a monster like that near the capital. Bodies with tons of spirits inside. What kind of cult did this? Destructive fist. I've heard your name before. I had no idea you'd gotten this powerful. Holy crap! Magic conductors have a new product. Ray guns, magic devices specifically for firing ray-type spells. Ha ha ha, so awesome! Even a mage apprentice can be crazy strong with enough money. Took down a monster and 2 low-level clerics. You had to hand it to Destructive Fist Eddie, he was really something. To get more bounty money and boost his own reputation, right after taking down the monster, he started bragging about it online. And this guy actually used different titles and writing styles in different forums. In the Magic Bomb forum, he didn't mention his giant bloodline at all, just said he was a magic apprentice who used ray guns and magic bombs to take down such powerful freaky enemies. But over in the Magic Creature Taste forum, he was discussing with people whether anyone would actually eat this kind of monster stuffed full of human spirits, and how you'd go about cooking it. Nearly started a flame war. Soon enough, every remotely related forum in magic space was buzzing with this news. Magicians from multiple countries, hundreds of thousands of them, all turned their attention to this incident. Most people were focused on the monster and the ray guns. Especially the ray guns. This could affect every single one of them. Viscount Roster's territory. The Wild Mage had just finished another patrol and returned to his personal port on the self-charging magic array. Feeling the array channel magic power into his body, he took a long breath and pulled out his magic net ring. This had basically become his daily routine: patrol the self-charging array, expand it, charge himself up, browse forums, study, do research. Other than that, there was pretty much nothing else to do. But before he could even open magic space, just seeing his private messages made him raise an eyebrow. Hey? Someone from Grey Fort. The person who'd first messaged him privately after he founded the Magic Bomb forum was actually a prince from the Grey Fort Empire, and now wanted to invite him to Grey Fort. Looking at all those promised benefits, deputy head of the Royal Mage Society, chief advisor to the Magician Legions, Viscount title, magic resources, areas with magical anomalies, the Wild Mage felt his heart racing. The conditions were generous enough to tempt even a legendary magician. The Wild Mage couldn't help but sigh. Talk about deep pockets. The Wild Mage was only a human faced with so many benefits. How could he not be tempted? Especially all that promised knowledge. That was knowledge accumulated by the Grey Fort Empire's royal family. Any little bit of it would be enough to start wars between nobles and supernatural beings. Now, just by agreeing to move to Grey Fort, it could all be within reach. Looking at these conditions, the Wild Mage found himself stunned for a moment. Just then, urgent footsteps came from outside. "Wild Mage sir! Wild Mage sir! Did you see the news on the magic net? I got a ray gun. Come take a look." Viscount Roster's sudden voice snapped the Wild Mage out of it. He quickly pulled himself together. "Ray gun? What's that? Weren't you checking the magic net? It's a new divine gift our god released. Someone's already using it to wreck shop. A mage apprentice took down a monster plus 2 clerics." Viscount Roster excitedly laid out various devices like he was showing off treasures, explaining the key points. Magic conductors could work like this. The Wild Mage's mind had been all over the place, but now he had just one thought. One magic conductor, 3 modules: main body, magic power storage, spell model. They could be combined differently for different effects. Ingenious, absolutely ingenious. The Wild Mage carefully examined these 2 different ray guns, unable to stop himself from muttering, "Self-charging magic arrays and these magic conductors are like twin brothers, even more complementary than magic bombs." Exactly. Self-charging arrays are like the core of magic conductors, and magic conductors are like extensions of self-charging arrays. Viscount Roster totally agreed with the wild mage's words. Just think, what if we could build massive self-charging arrays with power ports connected to every mage? What would that look like? Or what if we developed small charging arrays in the future, so every magician could set up a small one in their own home? What would that scene be like? That would be a completely new era. It'd send all those rotten old fogies straight to their graves. The wild mage couldn't help but take a deep breath. Countless images flashed through his mind, both excitement about what Viscount Roster was describing and memories of his own past life. Back then, he'd just wanted to survive. He'd proposed a self-charging magic array that actually could work, but got pushed around by countless people. Even after posting his completed results on the magic internet, he still got endless mockery. The people who could actually see its value were few and far between. The Kingdom of Dawn was like that. Would the Greyford Empire really be different? Greyford had an even more complete magician system than the Kingdom of Dawn, with more established magicians and even armed forces made up of magicians. Magic conductors appearing would definitely shake their foundations. Even if he accepted the invitation and went to Greyford with immediate high status, even if he really could get that Emperor's support, could he actually spread self-charging arrays? Could he really do what he wanted to do? The wild mage seriously doubted it. Viscount Roster had no idea that in just that brief moment, the wild mage's mind had wandered through so much. He was still excited, yet. A completely new era. And we'll be right at the center of it all. We're the first to realize the endless potential of magic conductors, we're the first to produce them, and we control self-charging arrays. Sure, that'll definitely spread eventually, but having the early advantage means we'll have the initiative. Plus, wild mage sir, in such a short time, our god has already given the mortal realm the magic internet, magic bombs and ray guns, and completely perfected your self-charging arrays. What will magic conductors develop into next? More powerful weapons? More useful tools? We can't know for sure, but I know magic conductors definitely have way more potential than this. Viscount Roster's endless chatter kept echoing and stirring in the wild mage's mind. Yet, he really is an amazing god. The wild mage swallowed hard. But let's talk about these ray guns first. If I'm not wrong, you want to set up a ray gun workshop. Chapter 45, War is about to break out. To be exact, I want to set up a ray gun main body workshop, spell model module workshop, energy storage rune workshop, and energy storage rune charging workshop. Viscount Roster's voice got noticeably heavier as he reached the end. Heck, I'd even be okay with not making ray guns at all and just specializing in charging storage units for ray guns, though that's the worst case scenario. He couldn't be sure if he'd actually be able to manufacture ray guns, since this time there were no production instructions, but he knew ray guns would definitely catch on, and there'd be way more storage modules than other modules. In that situation, charging storage modules would become a huge pain, but for them, self-charging modules could solve that problem perfectly. The wild mage was totally blown away by Viscount Roster's thinking. Magic devices could work like that? Sure enough, in the magic conductor era, everything would change. A flexible business partner was more important than any resource, more important even than ancient knowledge. You could get knowledge through other channels, but good partners weren't that easy to come by. The two of them talked until late into the night, basically nailing down the arrangements for the ray gun industry before each heading back to their place, planning to continue tomorrow. Watching Viscount Roster leave, the wild mage pulled out his magic net. Greyford Empire. The palace. Father, that wild mage turned down our recruitment. Prince Wilson, heir to the Greyford Empire, looked at his father somewhat helplessly. The conditions I offered would tempt even a legendary magician. Do you know why he refused? The Greyford Emperor didn't seem surprised by this at all, just posed a question to his heir. Maybe he doesn't want to leave the place he's used to living? The Kingdom of Dawn has way less national identity than us at Grey Fort, and the wild mage was pushed around by the Mage Association. He shouldn't have anything worth staying for. Prince Wilson looked confused. Think about it more carefully. The Grey Fort Emperor was pretty unsatisfied with his heir's answer, frowning slightly. Go get Grand Magician Andrew, the head of the Royal Magician Society, and the commander of the Magician Legions. Bring them all here. Yes. Prince Wilson bowed slightly and left quickly. Looking at the empty palace, the Grey Fort Emperor sighed, a new era, it's coming pretty fast. Just wonder if the Kingdom of Dawn can get through this crisis. The wild mage, who'd started this whole thing, tried to rest after replying but couldn't fall asleep. Viscount Roster's words kept echoing in his mind. Was there really more to it than just this? So would converting be a good idea? Capital of the Kingdom of Dawn. A carriage bearing the Rogers family crest raced through the night. Hand of the King. Birion Rogers had a grim expression, a thick sense of crisis spreading through his heart. He'd just had magicians skilled in necromancy perform various magical operations on the black-robed figures Destructive Fist had taken down, and they'd confirmed these people actually came from the Delir Emirates. Their main mission was to attack supplies being transported from the capital to the Western Territory, and if necessary, directly attack the capital to delay the kingdom's control over the West. Birion was really worried about war, especially at this critical moment. Remembering the last time he'd seen His Majesty, seeing his mind wasn't quite clear anymore, constantly muttering to a mirror made Birion's spine go cold. He remembered a rumor. The Kingdom of Dawn's royal family, the Ashford family, had once been followers of the god of war, but during a divine war, they'd betrayed the god of war and thrown themselves into the embrace of the god of light. Ever since, the god of war's curse had been passed down through the Ashford family. Nobody knew the curse's exact details, only that it involved voices normal people couldn't hear, scenes normal people couldn't see, a curse that would make them violent, and the prelude to all this was the current mental confusion. If His Majesty stayed mentally confused, Birion could manage the kingdom, mobilize resources, and face enemy nations with relatively controllable losses. But if His Majesty got through this phase and entered the violent period, thinking back to what happened with the third prince made his expression even uglier. But he had no idea that the third prince he'd watched grow up had already become the hottest god of technology in the divine realm. Betty watched all this with a smile. Great. Our ray guns should be on track soon. Roster and that wild mage are pretty capable, though why hasn't that wild mage chosen to convert yet? Whether he converts doesn't depend on us, and it won't affect the big picture. Ren sat in a nearby armchair, grinning. As long as they can get ray guns spread around too, my magic conductors are basically locked in, and my position as god of technology will be solid. So what's next? Keep developing weapons. Betty looked at Ren curiously. How about we develop a super big gun that can fire annihilation bullets? Annihilation bullets? Super big gun? That's a super cannon, okay. Even legendary magicians might not be able to fire one of those. Ren fell into brief thought. Making a super cannon wasn't impossible, using it on battlefields would definitely be incredibly effective. Even if it couldn't move, just putting it on city walls would show extraordinary results. At minimum, it'd definitely be as good as throwing tens of thousands of magic bombs like before. But thinking it over, Ren shook his head slightly. It's not time to spread truth yet. I don't have enough believers, not nearly enough to get magic cannons widespread. I think our next step should be making magic conductors civilian. Truth? Civilian? Betty looked at Ren in confusion. That sentence suddenly had a bunch of terms she'd never heard before. Power writes the laws, cannons author the truth. Ren seemed to be in a great mood, explaining with a smile, once we launch magic cannons, your super big guns, the whole mode of warfare will change. Right, whoever's within cannon range, the cannon's owner makes the truth. Betty was quiet for a moment before looking enlightened. So what does civilian mean? Magic conductors don't have to be weapons. What if we could use them for mining, smelting steel, producing all kinds of things. Wouldn't that affect way more people? That'd be great for collecting faith. Ren explained his thoughts as best he could. Too bad we still haven't found a way for people without magic to use magic conductors. Otherwise, if anyone could use them, collecting faith would be way easier. Chapter 46, 100,000 troops assemble. Lord Birion, I never expected you'd come visit me so late at night. Hand of the King. Birion looked completely stunned, hardly believing what he saw in His Majesty before him. Looking at those eagle-sharp eyes that hadn't appeared in over a decade, his mind felt like a tangled mess. For a moment, he even thought His Majesty must have been affected by the curse and reached the violent stage. But seeing the clarity and wisdom in those eyes, he pushed that thought away. Especially that gentle smile, he hadn't seen it in years. How could this possibly be what someone looked like after being corrupted by a curse? Could it be that His Majesty had successfully resisted the curse? The King of Dawn didn't seem to notice Birion's shock. He walked over to sit at a nearby table with a smile, gesturing for Birion to sit down. You came at this hour. You have something important to tell me, right? Yes, Your Majesty. Birion took a deep breath. Not long ago, I received border intelligence. Birion quickly explained all the Western Territory intelligence he'd gotten and what adventurers had discovered outside the capital. As he spoke, he carefully watched His Majesty's reactions. The King of Dawn never seemed to notice Birion's gaze, just listened to his report with a calm expression, then nodded slightly. So it's basically confirmed that those beastmen will attack us. Before he'd finished speaking, the ring on Birion's finger started glowing. Your Majesty, seems like important news is coming in. Should I? This is what you just mentioned, that God of Technology's creation. The King of Dawn looked at his ring with interest. Check the message first. Hearing this, Birion didn't waste words and activated the magic net directly. His expression immediately changed dramatically. The Dalir Emirates sent us a very unfriendly diplomatic document. The King of Dawn took a deep breath. I gave the Western Border Garrison General permission to open documents directly and send us messages through the magic net. As he spoke, he showed His Majesty the information transmitted via magic net. It read, Your esteemed Majesty Heimdall Ashford, we, the Council of 13 Great Chieftains of the Dalir Emirates, on behalf of all Dalir peoples, extend our most sincere greetings to you and the Kingdom of Dawn. Along with our greetings, we must express our deep concern and solemn protest regarding a series of recent events. Serious protest regarding recent food supply interruptions. Serious protest regarding recent iron ore supply interruptions. Serious protest regarding recent salt supply interruptions. Serious protest regarding Kingdom of Dawn merchants capturing slaves in the Dalir Emirates. Dozens of serious protests directly defined the Kingdom of Dawn as an evil nation that was heretical, interrupting normal trade, harboring cultists, and allowing slave trading. At the end, they stated that if significant concessions weren't made, they would be forced to use military action first to maintain their current stable environment. Those trades were clearly interrupted by them, and the Dalir Emirates is the world's biggest slave exporter. Lord Birion, no need to explain to me. The King of Dawn shook his head slightly. They're just looking for an excuse to start a war. Since that's the case, let's go to war. Normally, Griffin messengers take 3 days to get from the western border back to the capital. Round trip would be 6 days, plus a day for replies, so they won't make any big moves for at least 7 days. You mean we should transport large quantities of weapons to the border now and quickly organize more troops to assemble? Birion could obviously think of all this, but in front of His Majesty, he had to be a step slower. Exactly. I'm leaving this to you. I imagine the God of Technology hasn't just launched magic net rings but has already introduced other new magic items, right? If there are any suitable for war, send them all to the border. His Majesty suddenly becoming clear-headed, plus those wisely normal words, got Birion completely excited. He didn't notice anything strange about it at all. Watching Birion disappear from the bedroom, the King of Dawn's expression instantly became twisted. If anyone looked at the mirror not far from him right now, they'd definitely notice he and his reflection looked completely different. God of technology, in this age, someone still dreams of becoming a god. Do you think our god would allow a new goddess of magic to appear? God of technology, ha! Before long, everything about you will become part of the war. After who knows how long, the King of Dawn muttered to the mirror again, but no one could hear him anymore. An army was assembling in the west. Outside the western border of the Kingdom of Dawn, 70 to 80,000 enemy troops had already gathered. Endless rows of tents and banners spread across the plains. It was incredibly lively. When daytime came, it was like a marketplace. Here were gathered armies from over 100 tribes of the Dalir Emirates, from small tribes of dozens to large tribes of tens of thousands. Every tribe that got orders from the council had sent soldiers. As few as 7 or 8 people, as many as over 10,000. They set up camp according to their own size, making the gathering place jagged and incredibly chaotic. Over 100 different banners flew in the sky. The camps were like a maze, with messengers in different armor, using different weapons, speaking with various accents, running around this maze-like camp area. You could even occasionally hear various beast roars. Chaos caused by wrong orders was totally common in this camp. Chieftain Raging Horn of the Minotaur tribe rode his beloved red giant bull, standing at the highest point of the camp, overlooking the entire area with a pleased smile. The soldiers are gathering quickly. Before long, we'll have 100,000 troops assembled. Around him were 7 or 8 beastmen of different races, also looking quite happy. Really don't know what the Kingdom of Dawn could possibly use to resist such an amazing force. Honestly, I'm having second thoughts now. I even think we don't need to call up this many people. Every banner here is going to take a share of our spoils. The gods will cannot be questioned. A small, hunched beastman directly interrupted their conversation. The god of war commanded us to launch a great war against the Kingdom of Dawn. We must give the god our best response. As soon as he said this, everyone around him agreed. Chapter 47, Preparing to Become a God. 7 days passed in a flash. The Dalir Emirates assembly area was as noisy as vacation hotspots, maybe even worse. Right now, there were over 100,000 beastmen, half-beastmen, and humans gathered here. High Priestess, I heard we got a reply from the Kingdom of Dawn. Minotaur Chieftain Raging Horn rode his beloved big red bull, racing to the highest point of the assembly area, his deep voice instantly booming out. Yes. The High Priestess looked somewhat angry but also kind of happy, which left Raging Horn a bit confused. But he didn't dwell on it, because he heard exactly what he wanted to hear: war. 100,000 troops broke camp and marched out. Raging Horn, leading the vanguard, brought his army to the very front. They wore brand new armor, rode the giant bulls that were their tribe's signature, carried banners with their tribal totems, and marched forward without any whispering. They were even singing songs from their own tribe. On the vast grasslands, minotaurs stand tall, battle axes swing, oaths echo through the sky. For glory, for homeland, we embark on our journey, conquering all, spreading the Minotaur name far and wide. Their voices rang across heaven and earth, looking incredibly impressive. But this was uncommon in the entire 100,000 strong army, in fact, extremely rare. Even large tribes that were fellow council members rarely had such elite forces. Whether it was Dalir Emirates' custom, management issues, or faith in the god of war that put the whole army in a festive mood, every person seemed incredibly excited about the coming war. In their minds, they seemed to think they were immortal, that they definitely wouldn't die but would only get endless loot and glory. In this atmosphere, these soldiers were just happily chatting with people around them as they marched forward. If you didn't know better, you'd think this was 100,000 beastmen going on a picnic. The whole formation was incredibly chaotic. You could even say that if they didn't all have the same direction, mass trampling incidents probably would have happened already. It was ridiculously messy. No wonder though this army was made up of over 1,000 tribes. Getting so many beastmen from all over the place to cooperate? Harder than catching lightning in a bottle. Rabbit folk and eagle folk gathering together without eating each other was rare enough. How could they possibly cooperate? Being able to march toward the Kingdom of Dawn for a common goal was already pretty remarkable, at least, that's what the Dalir Emirates High Priestess thought. In the center of the formation, the High Priestess watched all this with an obvious smile. As long as they could reach the Kingdom of Dawn's border, as long as they could join the battlefield, it didn't matter if they could unleash any fighting power. Being there made them part of the battlefield, the perfect sacrifice for the god of war's miracle. Thinking about how they'd already gathered over 100,000 troops, with some slower units still catching up from behind, many hadn't even had time to gather at the assembly point but were real military strength that would gradually join the battlefield. The High Priestess looked even more pleased. Those soldiers from remote areas, those late soldiers, would gradually join the formation. She even felt that by the time fighting officially started, they could have 120,000 soldiers. No, they could have 150,000 soldiers. What an enormous number! With so many on their side, the Kingdom of Dawn probably wasn't small either. Such a large-scale war, what amazing miracles would the god of war bring down? Her excitement was written all over her face. Kingdom of Dawn. Western Territory Gateway, Twilight City. A cavalry unit charged into the city at full speed. Count Lucina Herrick, it's been a while. The Western garrison commander had barely started his greeting when Lucina Herrick cut him right off. This is a battlefield, please call me Wolf General. Looking at this countess from the Northern Territory wearing wolf furs, tall and imposing, with an amazing presence that naturally gave off a bit of ferocity, the garrison commander felt the pressure mounting. My oversight, Wolf General. Thinking back to the recent war in the north, where legendary monsters had broken through the watch wall into Northern Territory, and this young general had somehow killed all those monsters without outside help, plus her soldiers were currently the kingdom's only unit that had learned to use tech creations and had combat experience, the garrison commander's expression grew even more serious. After just a brief pause, he cut straight to business. Word from the capital says you are in full charge of Twilight City's Tech Legion defense. When can you join? Our scouts report that the Dalir Emirates main force has already moved out. Anytime. Lucina's tone was serious, but I need to know how many magic bombs have we stockpiled, how many ray guns, how many mage apprentices total, and how many catapult operators, archers, and throwers we have. The garrison commander thought briefly. 150,000 magic bombs, 1,200 ray guns, but 50,000 power modules. Less than 3,000 mage apprentices. Support from the capital is still on the way. He wasn't surprised that Lucina knew they had these magic weapons. Magic net communication was pretty convenient now. Information transmission and troop coordination had become much simpler because of it. If she didn't know this stuff, he'd question whether she had command ability. What he didn't know was that Lucina had actually converted to the god of technology after that northern battle, and the soldiers she'd brought were all god of technology converts. She even had quite a few fanatics. And her information sources weren't just from the capital, a lot came from two other fanatics, Viscount Roster and the Wild Mage. Every time she thought of those two, Lucina couldn't help but look respectful. Though both had far lower titles and status than her, they'd accomplished things she could hardly imagine. Rumor was that 70% of the military supplies here were produced in Viscount Roster's territory. In just a few days, they'd expanded their workshops several times over without needing lots of manpower. In the Goddess of Magic's Divine Realm book, how's the new feature coming? Ren looked at everything, unable to help asking again. It's just adding group chat functionality to private messaging. How has it taken so many days and still not ready? The sudden war had disrupted many of Ren's plans. He'd decided to temporarily shelve the Magic Net's new features and Magic Conductor civilian applications, instead developing war-related functions and products to maximize faith expansion. War was often the best way to gather faith. He was very close to becoming a god. His godhead was only about 5% away from being completely filled. This war should be enough. Chapter 48, Group Chat Almost. Almost ready, Lord Ren. Group chat has been done for ages. I'm mainly adding group announcements and group file features now. Honestly, it's been usable for a while, but I think it still needs fine-tuning to be more refined and match your temperament. Book's sycophantic voice instantly reached Ren's ears. Refined? Can't you refine it slowly later? Ren felt speechless hearing this. Just go live with it. Right now, immediately. This. Lord Ren, such a major update as group chat should be more perfect, shouldn't it? This doesn't seem that urgent. Group chat has a big impact on that mortal war. Ren directly interrupted Book's words, do as I say. Book still didn't quite understand but quickly updated the new feature. Almost instantly, everyone currently viewing the magic net got notification sounds. Whoa, we can actually chat with multiple people now. This feature feels really useful. Definitely. Chatting in magic space where lots of unrelated people can see, and private messaging several people to discuss things is too much trouble. Now everyone can discuss things together. I'm suddenly thinking, could our academy establish a group chat to announce important matters directly? Thanks to the goddess of magic, thanks to the god of technology. This feature is absolutely amazing. I'm once again deeply sorry about the Magic Encyclopedia incident. I've already shared lots of knowledge to make up for that mistake. Magicians were already the smartest group in this world. After accepting the magic net, their minds had become even more active. Seeing group chat, they instantly thought of many use cases. Just a few minutes of discussion revealed group chat's many advantages. Wide information coverage could send messages to multiple familiar members simultaneously, promoted teamwork and discussion, multiple people could discuss and brainstorm, improved efficiency, multiple people could speak at once, There were just too many benefits. People immediately started creating group chats, pulling in familiar friends and magic space buddies. Twilight City Training Grounds. Lucina looked at the ray gun in front of her with interest, muttering under her breath, so this is a ray gun? Really is pretty nice. The garrison commander immediately felt speechless. Are you some sheltered minor noble too? This is pretty. There couldn't be a more crudely made magic item in this world. Wait, she hadn't seen a ray gun before. Wasn't she supposed to be a Tech Legion expert? You haven't seen a ray gun before? The garrison commander swallowed hard, carefully asking. Though he was the supreme commander of this war, he really had no experience using these magic conductors in warfare. He'd pinned all his hopes on Lucina. Ray guns have only existed in the capital for 8 days total? How long does it take me to get from the north to the west? Where would I find time to go to the capital? Lucina waved her hand. All right, let me try this thing first. No experience, no right to speak. With that, she eagerly picked up a ray gun and, following tutorials from Viscount Roster, directly aimed at the first target and channeled magic power. She could feel her channeled magic power being instantly amplified after passing through energy storage runes, then entering the spell model, transforming into scorching heat that shot straight out through the barrel. A huge blue beam like an arrow instantly hit a target dozens of meters away. The leather-armored wooden target was effortlessly pierced through, covered in burn marks. The key thing was that the beam didn't stop, it shot straight into a nearby wall, knocking off quite a few fragments before finally dissipating. Without another word, she immediately turned her attention to another target. Effective range over 500 meters, no different from regular shock waves. After 7 or 8 shots, Lucina couldn't help muttering, accuracy is pretty good too. With just a little practice, it's basically no different from normal spell casting. As for magic consumption, even the most ordinary mage apprentice should be able to fire over 100 times. Oh right, Viscount Roster told me they invented some kind of scope in addition to producing these ray gun basic components. Why don't I see any? Suddenly, Lucina seemed to remember something and turned to the garrison commander. This. I haven't gotten word about that. The garrison commander was slightly stunned. You know Viscount Roster? Should I ask the capital? Yeah, go ask. Viscount Roster told me they invented a simple aiming device that can help mage apprentices get the hang of it quickly and improve accuracy, though aiming might take some extra time. If that's the case, it would be extremely beneficial for our upcoming war. The garrison commander had just opened his magic net when, before he could send a message, he cried out in surprise, "Wolf General, quickly open your magic net." The magic net released a new feature, and Lord Birion should have invited you to join group chats. Group chats? What's that? Lucina was having fun playing with the ray gun in her hands. She was initially a bit annoyed at being interrupted by the garrison commander, but after hearing about a new magic net feature, she immediately got excited. As she spoke, she'd already pulled out her magic net prayer, activation, all in one smooth flow, like she'd gone through this routine countless times. We can actually chat with multiple people together. Lucina looked at the magic net with some delight, unable to stop her mouth from turning up. This was so much more convenient. Western War Command Group. God of Technology Faith Group. Magic Bomb Combat Training Group. One group chat invitation after another made this northern countess's eyes light up. Now there'd be a place for more private conversations. But she quickly pulled herself together, rapidly accepting all these invitations, then focusing on the Western War Command Group. The capital lacks Griffin messengers. Strategic materials like magic bombs and ray guns will be transported by Griffin messenger. Scopes, food, and other supplies will be handled by ground forces. I've invited the person in charge to join the group chat. You can ask them directly about the specific location of scopes in a bit. Chapter 49, Rapid Changes on the Battlefield. Soon, Lucina and the others had figured everything out through group chat, including various deployments, war resource allocation, logistics capacity from different areas, everything crystal clear. As someone from a military family, this was Lucina's first time experiencing such convenience. She'd never imagined that war communications could be this convenient and interference-free. Even after getting the magic net and knowing private chat could transmit voices across thousands of miles, she never thought that just a small change, private chat becoming group chat, could be this handy. God of technology above, your wisdom makes everyone else pale in comparison. Lucina couldn't help but sigh. She knew all this came from the God of technology. The garrison commander was about to agree when he saw someone in the group chat asking, "Lord Birion, we're deploying most of the kingdom's forces to the Western Territory to fight the Delir Emirates. The Greyford Empire beyond our southern border really won't kick us while we're down." Immediately, all his attention focused on the group chat. That's right. They'd been facing off against the Greyford Empire for who knows how many years. Though there'd never been large-scale wars, small skirmishes almost never stopped. Border raids, territorial disputes over mining rights, conflicts over trade routes, these had become as regular as the changing seasons. The garrison commander had personally led dozens of such engagements, each one a careful dance of aggression and restraint, testing boundaries without crossing the line into full warfare. With most of their forces deployed to the west, would the south really be okay? If the capital hadn't thought about this before but was starting to worry now, would they deploy some forces to the south? That would weaken the forces they could deploy. The garrison commander couldn't help frowning, feeling somewhat worried. From what I know about the Greyford Empire, they won't attack at this time, at least not now. Just as everyone was curious and ready to ask more questions, Birion typed another line, "The Greyford Emperor is a wise man. He knows when to strike for maximum benefit. As long as our battle with the Delir Emirates is fast enough and devastating enough, we don't need to worry about them. Unless we fight very difficultly, start taking heavy losses, or even get invaded by the Delir Emirates, then we'd need to worry about Greyford reaping the benefits." Lucina didn't know what to say for a moment. She felt Birion's judgment was a bit too assumptive, but thinking it over, she didn't know how to argue against it. It seemed the Grey Fort Emperor really was that kind of person. He loved doing big things with minimal cost. If their battle with the Delir Emirates dragged on with countless weapons and soldiers dying on the battlefield, they'd definitely need to worry about Grey Fort attacking. But if they could easily crush them before, she definitely would have questioned, the Delir Emirates has already gathered 100,000 troops. Even killing 100,000 pigs would be incredibly difficult. How could you devastate 100,000 soldiers? But now, they had the god of technology's creations and, using magic net convenience, had stockpiled massive supplies here. It really seemed possible. They used group chat to complete some more communication, then returned to their respective posts. By the way, why are all these shock waves? Standing on the city wall doing final defensive preparations, Lucina couldn't help voicing her confusion. She really hadn't noticed this when communicating with Viscount Roster earlier. Those beastmen have thick hides and tough flesh. Burning, corrosion, and freezing might not affect them much. The capital thinks lightning spells work best as long as they hit. They'll definitely cause paralysis. The garrison commander smiled. I think that idea's correct. Lucina shrugged. She actually thought they were all about the same. Maybe multiple different types could even have unexpected effects. But since it wouldn't significantly impact their formation, she didn't dwell on it and continued arranging things: large catapults, small catapults, ray gun teams, archers, throwers. Watching this orderly layout, the garrison commander finally understood why higher UPS had deployed this wolf general from the north. She really did have unmatched experience using magic bombs. You could say she maximized everyone's value while achieving full-range bombardment as much as possible. What are you thinking about, General? Lucina quickly noticed the garrison commander's expression looked a bit off as he watched the soldiers in action, so she asked. Could there be information she didn't know? That was a battlefield taboo. I'm just thinking, these really are amazing weapons. The garrison commander's admiration was completely undisguised. I never imagined magic could be released like this. I never thought those mage apprentices could have such a big effect. Yeah, incredible weapons. Lucina totally agreed. The god of technology will change this world, but you're not just feeling sentimental, are you? Indeed. The garrison commander was quiet for a moment before nodding. I'm also feeling a bit lost. It took me 3 years just to become a knight, 5 years total to master 2 basic knight skills. But now, any random mage apprentice can use these magic conductors to pose a huge threat to such a knight. What's scarier is? The garrison commander suddenly didn't know how to continue. After several seconds of silence, he finally went on. I studied for 20 years to learn battle formations, to give my knight order stronger combat power. But now, it's all outdated. Yes, it's outdated. Lucina nodded without mercy, but isn't that how war is? As time passes, warfare modes keep evolving. Ancient times were different from now too, right? Times have changed, so let's try to adapt to this era. Right. Times have changed, so we adapt to this era. The garrison commander nodded, but the depression in his heart didn't lessen at all. After a brief silence, he suddenly changed topics. What do you think would happen if we buried lots of magic bombs in that area and detonated them when enemies entered? How could you detonate them without magic power input? Lucina asked with some confusion. She didn't believe he wouldn't know this. You're not thinking of having magicians be suicide bombers, are you? That wouldn't work in time either. Chapter 50, Strange Stones. The garrison commander's expression didn't change as he pointed toward Eagle's Nest Mountain in the distance. Our scouts discovered a strange type of stone there. Hey! Lucina instinctively wanted to ask what this had to do with magic bombs, but the words reached her lips before she suddenly realized he definitely wouldn't say meaningless things. She immediately got curious. Strange stones. Dense, hard stones, mostly grey and black. When you break them open, they show shell-like fractures. The garrison commander's face showed incredible disbelief as he pulled a small stone from his chest, feel it for yourself. Lucina took it and examined it carefully, but didn't see anything special. Just rub or tap this with anything, then sense for magic fluctuations. If I remember correctly, you're a high-level magician, right? Magic fluctuations? Hitting this stone would produce magic fluctuations? Her first thought was, impossible. Absolutely impossible. Everyone knew that to trigger magic power, you needed a spellcaster. Magic triggering was related to intelligent beings' mental power. How could stones trigger it? But this was a battlefield. A general couldn't possibly joke about this kind of thing right now. Though her heart was full of confusion and she found it incredible, Lucina still held the stone and casually knocked it against her armor. Instantly, her expression changed dramatically. It really could trigger magic power. Eagle's Nest Mountain actually had such miraculous creations. Pretty incredible, right? I think so too. Though I have no magic talent, I know that until today, everyone believed magic power couldn't be triggered by non-living things. But that's the reality. Using two such stones to rub and collide works even better. Because of this, one of our unlucky mid-level magicians is still lying in bed. With the two countries about to go to war, the scouts he'd sent out had become increasingly capable, naturally including some supernatural beings. Not long ago, his scouts met some Talir Emirates guards in that area. His people used ranged weapons to crush the opponents almost overwhelmingly. Probably panicked by being crushed, with no effective ranged attack methods, the Talir Emirates soldiers just started throwing stones. Then something weird happened. When a stone hit a magic bomb, the magic bomb actually exploded. How could a magic bomb just explode like that? Everyone found it incredible. You have to know, magic bomb explosions required two major conditions. Many people had tested this skeptically. There were even rumors of legendary knights violently attacking them. Even when magic bombs were beaten to pieces, they couldn't be detonated. In the end, they had to admit these things could only be triggered after magic power input. That mid-level magician, his mind full of disbelief, started looking for what variable was different after killing those enemy scouts. The final result was that he verified the stone was special. For this, he also took several direct hits from magic bombs. Hearing the garrison commander's words, Lucina was dumbfounded. You just need to hit magic bombs with that kind of stone to detonate them. Don't even need to hit them. Regardless of size, as long as these stones experience impact, they'll trigger magic bombs. The garrison commander took a deep breath. If we put these stones together with magic bombs and they get impacted together, couldn't we possibly? They'd definitely explode. As long as the impact is sufficient. Lucina said with absolute certainty. After confirming this stone's properties, her first thought was exactly this: combine some highly sensitive magic bombs with this stone type, place them in specific positions, and the moment someone stepped on them, the magic bombs would detonate directly. That's what I think too. The garrison commander nodded slightly. In fact, our magicians have already verified this. It really can successfully detonate. Though according to our verification, only people weighing over 300 pounds stepping on them might cause detonation. That's enough for now, isn't it? Lucina's mouth turned up slightly. This garrison commander really was reliable. Don't forget the Minotaur tribe's war giant bull knight regiments and similar units will definitely be charging at the front. Forget 300 pounds, 1,000 pounds would be easy. We can also have Viscount Roster and his people make a batch of more sensitive magic bombs later. Then the requirements would be even lower, right? This sensitivity can also be adjusted? Also, regarding Viscount Roster, shouldn't capital personnel communicate with him? The garrison commander was somewhat worried. Though Viscount Roster was just a mere viscount, he'd been red-hot these past few days. Supposedly many major nobles were trying to curry favor and invest. No wonder though, as long as there was money and resources, Roster territory could mass-produce magic bombs and ray guns. Supposedly their territory had some kind of array that could automatically charge power modules. Really too incredible. Much more incredible than those strange stones. I'll communicate with the capital. Even without the capital, I believe Viscount Roster would definitely help us accomplish this. Lucina smiled, because he's a fanatic of the god of technology. The garrison commander was somewhat confused. He didn't understand much about the god of technology, but since this wolf general said so, there probably wouldn't be problems. All right, according to messages from our scouts, the Dalir Emirates army will arrive before noon tomorrow. Let's lay some down first. Low sensitivity has its advantages. We can easily handle ordinary enemies, but war giant bulls are different. We're bombing them specifically. Once war was involved, whether new or old style, Lucina always showed extraordinary ability. Laying traps combining these special stones with magic bombs wasn't particularly difficult. Under Lucina and others' direction, they quickly laid large quantities near the natural gap not far from Twilight City. This was practically the only route from the Kingdom of Dawn to the Dalir Emirates. Twilight City was built here precisely to guard this natural passage formed by two mountains. This passage was called Eagle's Nest Pass. The Dalir Emirates army moved slowly. The war giant Bull Knight regiment led by Raging Horn couldn't go too fast either, but the assembly point wasn't far from the Kingdom of Dawn to begin with. Now they could already see the two mountains forming Eagle's Nest Pass in the distance. Watching enemies getting closer, the heat in Raging Horn's eyes became even more intense. As long as they could take Twilight City, they could drive straight in and enter the Kingdom of Dawn's heartland. There were countless stores of food and treasure there. Just as he was lost in fantasy, a small bird flew over. In the sky, it suddenly started talking. Great Chieftain Raging Horn, the High Priestess wants you to come over, regarding the God of War's miracle. Chapter 51, Battle Begins Miracle. Raging Horn's expression immediately became solemn. While ordering the troops to continue advancing, he headed deeper into the army. Before long, a massive vehicle pulled by dozens of giant elephants appeared before him. Even more surprising was that on top of this vehicle was a supersized tent resembling a yurt. Raging Horn jumped onto this huge vehicle almost without hesitation. When he entered, he found priests sitting in a circle around the hall, continuously praying. Deep, solemn prayer words kept echoing. It seemed like there wasn't a trace of any other sound in heaven and earth. Even the noise outside the tent was almost inaudible here. In the center of the hall blazed a roaring fire, with a murderous aura emanating from the flames that made Raging Horn's eyes turn red. The flames of war had begun burning. The god was responding to their prayers. Fanaticism and joy surged in his heart. Raging Horn's battle intent swelled, faintly giving the impression it was about to materialize. Raging Horn, do you feel it? The High Priestess's voice rang in his ears, finally awakening him. He quickly spoke, the god seems to be watching us. The battlefield is the place closest to God. The appearance of hundreds of thousands of troops will make Eagle's Nest Canyon the place closest to God in the mortal world. The High Priestess had somehow appeared beside Raging Horn, her face wearing a rich smile as she gazed at the fire basin. The god has already answered us. He will bring down a miracle tomorrow at 3 p.m. And you, Raging Horn, need to breach Twilight City within 1 hour. The moment the High Priestess's voice fell, the ordinary priests in the tent seemed to sense something. They simultaneously pulled out daggers and directly sliced huge wounds in their palms, spraying blood that they poured entirely into the fire basin. The countless streams of blood didn't extinguish the flames, instead they made them more fierce. The fusion of war flames and blood made the atmosphere of this ritual even more heavy. Raging Horn's battle intent suddenly reached its peak, as if battle intent alone could wound people. An extremely solid and murderous aura spread out from this tent. In a flash, it was noon the next day. Lucina stood on Twilight City's walls, looking at the grey sky, her brow furrowing slightly. It's going to snow. Yes, it's going to snow. The garrison commander's gaze was grave. Beastmen are very good at snow combat. But we have the god of technology's creations, don't we? Lucina took a deep breath, This war, our main strategy is long-range bombardment. Have everyone prepare. From what I know about those beastmen, they probably won't wait until tomorrow. All of Twilight City instantly became tense. Countless strength-type soldiers and mage apprentices quickly moved to their positions. Countless soldiers began carrying crates of supplies up to the city walls. The Kingdom of Dawn might have long since decayed, but the elites they led still had extraordinary combat power. Raging Horn looked at the increasingly close Twilight City, his eyes beginning to search carefully in the sky. Finally, he fixed his gaze on that mass of huge dark clouds. War miracle is about to descend. Minotaurs, puff out your chests, let the war souls in your hearts burn fiercely. In this sacred moment, let our iron hooves become the most shocking symphony between heaven and earth, ruthlessly trampling underfoot all enemies blocking our path of conquest, making their wails the strongest notes in our victory symphony. The God of War's will is absolute that no force can shake. The Minotaur will is the same. War. 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 The war cries of the giant bull knight regiment echoed in space for a long time. The God of War's will seemed to have begun affecting them. Time slowly passed, but noon's sky grew increasingly dark. The clouds in the sky seemed to get thicker and thicker. In the divine realm, Ren, who was watching television, couldn't help frowning slightly. I keep feeling like those clouds aren't quite normal. This might be the God of War's miracle. Betty was also very serious. Just don't know if these beastmen gained the God of War's attention through prayer, or if this sudden war was itself caused by the God of War. God of War. Ren was slightly stunned. Yes, the God of War. Betty nodded. Actually, many wars in the mortal realm are pushed by him, like the famous Honey War of the Kingdom of Dawn. The Honey War, a very bizarre internal war in the Kingdom of Dawn where two counts fought a prolonged war over ownership rights to a wild beehive. The war lasted a full 3 years. According to incomplete statistics, over 50,000 people died because of this war, countless became refugees, and losses were incalculable. Seeing Ren seemed lost in thought, Betty didn't want to disturb him, but just then, in the scene, strong winds suddenly began blowing over Twilight City's sky. Bitter cold winds like knives wildly lashed at the soldiers on the walls. At the same time, snowflakes also fell. These little things that were usually like goose feathers now seemed like hail. Betty immediately reacted, it's starting. In the scene, violent winds mixed with ice and snow rushed toward Twilight City like blade edges. Raging Horn led the Minotaur tribe's knights, beginning to charge forward. The wind and snow that caused Twilight City's defenders immense pain swirled around these beastmen without invading them one bit, as if the violent winds, ice crystals, and low temperatures all bypassed them. Roars and low chants instantly began echoing through Eagle's Nest Pass. Howling winds, churning clouds, knife-like ice, and snow, blurred vision. Lucina felt alarmed. This is bad. It's the God of War's blizzard miracle. Activate defensive arrays, all mage towers activate, don't let this ice and snow attack us. Everyone, prepare for battle. According to God of War church records, in blizzards, his believers will have unparalleled battle intent. They'll become lunatics who never retreat. For a certain time, they'll have one chance to resurrect. The reduced visibility already made soldiers somewhat uneasy. After hearing Lucina's words, the soldiers' expressions became even uglier. They just have one extra life, don't be afraid, warriors. So what if it's the God of War's miracle? We also have the God of Technology's miracle. We have unparalleled long-range combat ability. Even if they have one resurrection chance, so what? We can still kill them from thousands of meters away. The Minotaur Legion was coming. The moment her words fell, Raging Horn rode his beloved red war giant bull, leading the Minotaur Legion directly into the pits and minefield Lucina had ordered dug. Chapter 52, Thunder and Fire War giant bulls weighed at least 6,000 pounds. Raging Horn's beloved big red bull even reached an amazing 10,000 pounds. Minotaurs generally weighed between 600 and 1,500 pounds. To be selected as a Giant Bull Knight Regiment member, you needed at least 1,000 pounds. As for Raging Horn, this great chieftain reached an amazing 2,300 pounds. Starting at 7,000 pounds, up to 12,300 pounds, the Giant Bull Knight Regiment charging through Eagle's Nest Pass made even the earth seem to tremble. Such massive weight charging made countless stones fly up continuously, with thunderous sounds carrying far. Even from Twilight City's walls, you could hear clearly. Such momentum made every soldier on the walls incredibly nervous. Even mage apprentices holding ray guns couldn't help breaking out in cold sweat. Luckily the defensive arrays had deployed, blocking that war miracle outside, otherwise, some people's foreheads would probably already be icing over. Boom! Suddenly, a thunderous roar. In the distant mist, red lights faintly emerged. These red lights were like sparks. In just seconds, they bloomed everywhere in that mist. Then soldiers faintly heard some screams. Countless red lights erupted from Eagle's Nest Pass. The amazing heat brought by flame whirlwinds kept spiraling. The water vapor brought by the divine miracle was evaporated away considerably. Visibility rapidly increased, and they could see more clearly. "General, your people really discovered something remarkable." Lucina couldn't help swallowing. "I think Viscount Roster and the Wild Mage would definitely be very interested in that ore you discovered." This was way more shocking than when they fought ice spirits before. Back then, to make magic bombs, they used all kinds of magic. Whatever could be thrown to cause destruction, they'd use. Magic bombs cancelling each other out wasted quite a bit. But this time, it was all uniform flame whirlwinds. Countless flames rising brought not just bombardment, countless flames intertwining together had even caused qualitative change. Even some mid-level flame spells couldn't cause such massive destruction or reach such heights. More terrifying was that this temperature kept climbing. Even the surrounding magic power seemed to become unstable, as if normal magic power in the air was transforming into fire attribute magic power. If it really reached that point, everyone on the battlefield would feel scorching magic power. Burning would be further enhanced, and explosions too. Most horrifying was that they hadn't even started attacking yet. This was just specially processed magic bombs naturally detonating under war giant bulls trampling. They hadn't even officially begun their assault and had already taken heavy losses. Lucina knew magic bombs were good things, magic conductors were war weapons, and the god of technology's products could definitely let them win with fewer numbers. But she really hadn't thought that making them into traps would have such powerful effects. Ordinary soldiers might not see distant scenes, but as a high-level magician, she could see clearly. She could see that the moment war giant bulls stepped on magic bombs, flame whirlwinds formed, directly blasting those war giant bulls and minotaurs to the ground. Powerful flames continuously burned the war giant bulls and minotaurs who'd fallen. Their bodies had started burning, with screams endless. Before they could extinguish the flames on their bodies, minotaur knights from behind had already charged past, completely ignoring fallen comrades, directly charging over them. Even back hooves accidentally stepped on fallen minotaurs. But this wasn't the only magic bomb. Just as they leaped over fallen minotaurs, they triggered another magic bomb buried underground. Massive flames swept over, instantly setting them ablaze. As for minotaurs still rolling on the ground, already in great pain from being hit by flames again, they finally couldn't endure it, either fainting or dying. These minotaur knights charged fearlessly, triggering magic bomb after magic bomb, enduring, falling, being trampled by their own people. The scene was nothing if not spectacular. If these were ordinary soldiers, they probably would have started fleeing already. Minotaur's battle intent is actually this intense. Lucina watched this scene with some amazement, eyes full of disbelief, unable to help thinking. Even the elites she'd trained would probably retreat when facing such situations. In the minefield, Raging Horn's eyes were somewhat red. "Warriors, don't let fear penetrate your hearts. We are Minotaur glory. The god of war's blood boils. Let this earth tremble under our iron hooves, let enemy wails become our war songs. Charge, my brave warriors! Let flames purify everything, let battle axes cleave obstacles. Our names will all be forever engraved on victory's monument. Raging Horn roared madly, riding that red war giant bull, suddenly accelerating and charging wildly. One magic bomb after another was triggered. His originally shiny fur armor was already scarred and blackened. But his voice was abnormally persistent, continuously stimulating the soldiers. Giant Bull Knight Regiment members, under such stimulation, were covered by war's wool. Fear in their hearts continuously dissipated. Each controlled their war giant bulls and continued charging. The beastmen following behind, after noticing that areas the Giant Bull Knight Regiment had passed through wouldn't explode again, also shouted and continuously charged forward. Group wool was madly infecting them. Landmines kept exploding. Scorching flames tore apart the protective energy on Giant Bull Knight Regiment members, but they still charged fearlessly. Just then, a Minotaur who'd just been trampled to death by comrades suddenly stood up. His war giant bull did the same. After less than a second of adjustment, they began charging forward again. Other than their eyes starting to turn red, there seemed to be no other changes. God of War miracle warriors in blizzards could gain strength, speed, courage, battle intent, and one resurrection chance. Nearly 10,000 magic bombs buried in Eagle's Nest Pass kept being triggered. Countless flames rose. Gradually, visibility improved considerably. But precisely because they could see, everyone couldn't help feeling alarmed. Those minotaurs seemed to feel no pain, charging madly. As long as they had breath, they'd keep charging, continuously using their bodies to clear these landmines. That tragic scene, that shocking scene, was terrifying. In continuous explosions, though Raging Horn's Minotaur Knight Regiment suffered heavy losses, they still kept advancing, continuously approaching Twilight City. Fortunately, even though they had one resurrection chance, they still suffered heavy losses against the minefield. The Giant Bull Knight Regiment, originally composed of 5,000 people, now had only about 2,000 left. But there was one more thing that made the Kingdom of Dawn's armies feel fear: those Minotaurs who fell again would directly disappear without a trace, as if they'd never appeared in this world. In the Divine Realm, Ren watched such scenes and couldn't help frowning slightly. This is the God of War's power? Using natural weather to attack, letting believers on their side have an extra life, and making corpses disappear so it doesn't affect their own morale. About the last point, Ren was somewhat uncertain.